How's it going, everyone? Today's video is one I've wanted to create for a while now, discussing my journey over the years of running an account solely off of bonds and also discussing whether or not you guys should do the same. For a little background, I started my account on June 4th in 2019 and have been playing off and on since. When the account was first created, bonds were around 4 mil, and because of this, going from free to play to members wasn't really that hard. It did, on the other hand, take a lot of work of buying from shops and selling to the GE, but it only took around a week to do. In today's in-game market, things are a much different story. On average, in the last few weeks, bonds have been ranging between 13 and 14 mil, and when I recorded this video, a single bond was running right around the 14 mil flat mark, which means if you're trying to replicate what I did from going free to play to members, it's going to be a much longer and harder process to get the cash saved up. So let's take a look at different stages of accounts and break down early, mid, late game for both free to play and members on whether or not it's worth it to buy bonds or if you should give up some of your hard-earned real money and just buy the membership instead. Starting off with early game free-to-play accounts, honestly this bracket, unless you know of some magical way to make lots of GP, which I currently don't know of, it's really not worth it to buy the bond. Just spend the real money on memberships for a bit so you can go directly into the members areas. I think the best money makers that I could find at this level in free-to-play could only produce you around 300 to 400k, with also requiring a very heavy time sink. At this rate, it would take you around 38 hours to get the money for a bond. Moving into mid-game free-to-play, again, this really isn't viable at this time with the price of bonds. Yes, you have some higher skills, but really your options for money making haven't really changed, and it's still going to take you that 30 plus hours to get the money. With this time sink, I personally don't think it's worth it at this point, but if you did play the game a lot, this is a point where you could buy a membership for a single month with real money, and then you might be able to transition this account once you're in members to something that could solely run off of bonds, if you're able to level up enough skills and do enough quests once you get to that membership area. Now, free-to-play late game is the only time where you might be able to pull this off and go from free-to-play to members without having to use your real-life money. And between things like crafting high-alching items, or maybe if you know how to flip items in the GE, however, this can be extremely time-consuming, and since you only have 3 slots in the GE, it can be a little frustrating to do, and it takes a lot of practice to get used to. But it's not always going to be the most reliable thing to do, but overall my thoughts are if you're stuck in free-to-play at this point, it's just better off to buy a membership at least once for a month, and you can transition into members, which we're going to go discuss next. Moving on to the members side, I'm going to start with the assumption that you already have some membership left and now are debating whether or not you should keep paying real money or if you should switch over to run your account on bonds. First up is the membership in early game. Now, if you're still early game, depending on how much time of membership you have left, I put this at a maybe. Members have a lot more opportunities to make money, and I would say that if you have at least 2 weeks of membership left, you could most likely make this work. Just note that if you want this to work, it's going to require a lot of time, but nothing near as long as free-to-play has to put in. Things like ensuring to do birdhouse runs every hour, and other tasks like making pre-made potions can bring in a lot of GP easily, but you definitely are going to need those 2 weeks, otherwise you're going to run into the risk of feeling like you're getting burnt out on the game because your account's solely on making money for a bond, instead of actually getting to do the things that you enjoy on your account. Now moving on to mid-level accounts, this is where you begin to see things like birdhouse, herb, and fruit tree runs paired with things like nightmare zone herb boxes and collecting from your kingdom can really start to add some serious money to your account. And now you won't have to spend all day doing tasks like in early game, but you will need to make sure you're at least doing these tasks a couple times a day, and a new issue starts to arise where gear costs a lot of money at this point to make some nice upgrades. So this becomes a major struggle in this bracket, and you have to maintain a bit of discipline if you want to survive off of bonds. I found this step to be pretty difficult at times because I would either get too busy to do my herb runs or other tasks that I should have done daily, or I just didn't want to do them at all because I wanted to focus on other areas of my account. So at this point, I think a mixture of buying bonds with real currency and buying membership with bonds is more of a worthwhile investment. That way you don't feel like your account is stagnant in both gear and progress. Last up, we have late game for members. And honestly, at this point, you probably have enough options to make good money that it's hard to say that you couldn't run your account solely off of bonds. I did find that there are still weeks here and there where maybe your RNG suffers and some of the drops aren't hitting in the ways that you want, which can make the purchase of a bond a bit harder on your in-game bank. But then again, you're going to have other weeks where everything seems to align and you can save up some GP, you can purchase even multiple bonds at the time. That way you have them in storage and you're not worrying about 2 weeks to 2 weeks every time. Maybe you have like a month or two worth of bonds in the bank so that you can just focus on your skills and just the progress of your account. Most people with late game accounts really aren't going to struggle with that 14 mil price at this time, like I said, but only time will tell if these prices continue to climb. Even though late game is pretty easy to make money, I would still like to let people know that it's not the worst idea to pay real money for some memberships once in a while on your late game account. At this tier, your character upgrades are going to be super expensive, so it's going to take even longer if you are having that noticeable like 14 mil coming out of your bank every 2 weeks, and that is something that I have struggled with as well. So in conclusion, do I think bond-only accounts are worth it at this time in 2024? And the short answer is no. I think they add a level of stress to the game that can almost make the game feel like work at times, and can make you get bored with repetitive tasks that you pretty much have to do at all times to keep that currency on hand to buy that next bond. Now, if bonds begin to drop going forward, I would say this becomes more viable for a larger section of characters and becomes a little less stressful to do, but as the trends have shown so far, that doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. What are your thoughts on the bond-only accounts, and how many of you out there just purchase bonds to stay in the members world? I would be curious to know what your thoughts are of what you do to always ensure that you have the money to purchase that next bond. Now, thanks for watching this video. If you like what you saw, be sure to leave a like, comment, and think about subscribing for my videos to come, and I will see you in the next one.